You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
Oh, goody.
And we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And today
we have a do-over. A do-over.
A do-over, yeah. It's a do-over because we had a technical thing. I was transferring files to another hard drive.
So you guys don't know this.
I trashed them.
Yes, being incredibly transparent, I was like, Stephanie, you got to come back.
So we're very appreciative of Stephanie for doing this again with us.
Yes.
We should have said it's an encore. It was so we're going to do it again.
We just
well,
wanted
actually,
more.
It was. If it wasn't good, I would have just said we're not going to run it.
Yeah, that's right. Next.
So it was great. It was great. And it was very valuable. And people are going to be excited about that.
And you're actually, thank God you're a good podcast guest because not everyone is. Of course, most of ours have been, with a few, but I have heard.
Right.
Sometimes
we have trouble with one of the hosts.
Well, now we have trouble with one of the hosts, but we'll walk past that.
All right.
All right. So we are going to introduce Stephanie Angelo. She's the architect behind, I should probably put these on because then I could read better. The architect behind Built to Thrive organizations, where she champions slaying the villain of culture stagnation. As the mastermind behind the renowned board game, hold it up, Stephanie, Company Culture, a game of workplace traction, not transaction. There it is. It's lovely. Stephanie integrates this powerhouse tool exclusively into her company culture workshops, delivering transformative experiences both in person and virtually. Stephanie caters to a diverse clientele ranging from business owners to high-ranking leaders, emerging leaders, and human resource professionals. Through her unparalleled expertise in training, speaking, and consulting, she empowers clients to cultivate robust cultures, crafting tailored in-house programs that elevate employee performance / turnover rates and foster unwavering organizational engagement. Those are quite the words. I'm glad I could read them all. Hi, Stephanie.
Very colorful.
Yes.
Hi.
As are you.
And so is the game. So and we'll get to that in a second. Stephanie and I met on LinkedIn, and we have a bunch of people in common. We're both very playful in our approach to organizational culture and stuff like that. So we got to be friendly, and I talked to her. She's talking to us. So yeah.
So
I love it when LinkedIn works like that because that's what LinkedIn is really all about, right?
Hence the term linked in.
Exactly. So even though we're well aware of it, since I trashed the recording last time. So what'd you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be when I grew up?
Yeah.
I originally, like most kids, I morphed into a few things, right? So there was a point in time I wanted to be a veterinarian, which my father was crazy about since he was a professor of pediatric neurology. So he thought medicine, that's the ticket. And then that went away pretty quickly. And I decided I wanted to be an actress. And I had originally gone to University of Southern California to the drama department there. And then I didn't get to graduate thanks to dear old dad, but then I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I did do some films. I'm a member of Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA.
Me too, yay.
So long story short, that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And yes, Rona and I have that in common, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And so how did you get into consulting, doing what you do?
How did that all morph into, where we are now?
Tell us everything.
Most people have transitions, right? So I found myself here in Arizona thanks to a first marriage. That's the optimal word there. First marriage, not current marriage. And I ended up here in Arizona, and I literally was looking for work, and I went to a employment agency. And they got me assigned to DoubleTree Hotel. And luckily it was to the Human Resources Department. It worked out so well that they hired me full time. I was at DoubleTree for 5 years. After that, I was with a healthcare system. So I had a great 10-year career in human resources. And then things changed because the hospital that I was working with housed the inpatient census for the Mayo Clinic before the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale had a Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale. So when they built that hospital, it basically took away our census. I ended up being more or less laid off. They offered me a job as a full-time recruiter, which I didn't really want to do. There were a few mitigating things. I had just had a baby. Thought, why drive an hour to do a job I don't want to do to leave her? It just didn't make sense. So I started my own consulting business kind of out of necessity. And the consulting business itself has morphed into a few different things along the way, where I did trainings for companies. I did career transition training. And then on my own, I did domestic violence, intimate partner violence awareness for HR and management. Lights are blinking. I don't know. It's the stars. And then after 16 years of that, I went back to my roots of loving company culture, and I changed again. So for about the last 5 years, I've been concentrating on company culture.
Nice. And doing quite well.
Thank you.
Which is
even when the lights are blinking.
That's right. In spite of the lights.
So what have you seen from a company culture? Have you seen patterns? Are there patterns within organizations that kind of led up to the game, or do you see something lacking? Do you see something that needs to be infused?
I definitely see things lacking. I see still in this day and age a surprising number of employers that are having a hard time giving their employees the flexibility that they crave. I think employers still feel like they have to hold on to things rigidly and tightly, and they don't want to bend, as if they're going to lose some sort of control, which is not the case. And employees work really, really well when you offer them the flexibility they're craving. And flexibility is just one thing. Employees are really asking for their employers to be more transparent with them. And they're asking for various things like that. Autonomy comes to mind. There are really like 18 different values that seem to regularly rank high on the list, but I would say autonomy, flexibility, transparency are always the top three. And so it's a rare company that really is implementing those. I do see a lot of companies that talk about it, but whether or not they actually do it is still kind of wait and see. That's really what I'm seeing, Jeffrey, is that kind of lack of wanting to flex. And that's why I talk about slaying the villain of stagnation, because stagnation is all about, we want to hold on to this because this is where we're comfortable, or we want to hold on to this because we feel like if we give them more latitude, then we won't be in control. Whatever their feelings may be, whatever their fears may be, management still tends to hold on things pretty tightly. And so that's what I talk about when I say slay the villain of stagnation. And I believe if you stay stagnant long enough and you just sit there, that eventually you just sort of slide backwards. And it's that slide backwards that lets your competition get ahead of you. And I don't think a lot of employers are seeing that that's kind of the position they're setting themselves up for by not being willing to change.
That's like you always, was it, did you start that? We love change. You go first.
Yeah, either that or I did a lot of research and picked it up from somebody else. So yeah, and talking about change and organizational culture then. So one of the things I've been seeing lately is people are not. So part of the problem is people have lost faith in organizations. They've lost faith in political leaders. They've lost faith in products and,
they've just
things
lost
like
faith.
Yeah, they just, everybody has got, who do you trust, And so what I'm finding though, as a response to that, people are kind of digging in on their own beliefs. And so it's almost, instead of a positive effect and changing. So for managers or leaders, it's kind of like, well, wait a second, we do need to control them. We do need to have them here. We can't give them autonomy. We can't give them a change for flexibility. It's going nuts. And so it's a reaction to it. It's almost a reaction against what people are asking for. Now, A, have you noticed that? And B, how does the game that you've got, does it open up management? Or is it targeted to employees? Or is it, because I think the real issue is the leadership. The
Trickle
idea
down. Trickle down. I agree. Yeah.
Well, you know, the game was created, and I'll just show you the decks of cards.
Yeah.
Sure.
Show us everything.
So here, so, you know, we have a game board,
Right.
right?
Also very
And like a lot
colorful.
of games, you know, you start on your color and you have to go all the way around. See the direction of the arrows?
Right.
I'm trying to do things backwards, but you see the direction of the arrows. You make it all the way around, and then when you get back to your color
Okay.
and you go to the safe space, that's the person who wins the game.
Okay.
But here's what happens, and this is to answer your question about, is it for management? Is it for employees? I have two different decks of cards. One is the salaried and one is the hourly.
Okay.
And you can, for example, if you have a company, I have a client who has nobody that's hourly because everybody in the entire organization is paid salaried. So what they did is they made it work for them by saying remote workers and on-site workers. They did some different things that, you know,
Okay.
you're only limited by your imagination, right?
Sure.
So I encourage people to make it work for them. But the cards have things on them that are intended to elicit conversation and to encourage discussion. So you come across these things that are very positive and they're written in green. For example, this card, right? Written in green, you probably can't read it, but it's in green. And if it's something in green and it's positive, you go forward a certain number of spaces. If you get something that is not good and it's in red, you will go backwards a certain number of spaces. So it's like a lot of games where there's forward and back. But what I want people to do, and this is part of the workshop and how they're encouraged, is when they see a card, because you read them all out loud so that the people in your 6-person game group can hear what you've got on your card. If it's something that inspires conversation, you're encouraged to discuss it and talk about it. Now, I tell people, look, you can't belabor a certain card for the next hour because you'll never make your way through the cards, and there's so much value in those cards. But if it's something that sparks a conversation, definitely talk about it for a couple minutes and then write it down, because we actually go back and revisit and work with those things that they've written down. And the fun thing about having multiple groups at the same time, particularly if they're from the same organization, and I've done this multiple times when it's people from different organizations, but what's really cool is when you join them together afterwards and you talk about what this group found really interesting and what that group found really interesting. It's so different. And then you can collaborate and share all those things. And that's where we create the initiatives then that the organization will work on to improve their company's culture. So it sparks conversation. I'll give you a real quick example that I love so much from one of the times.
And just before you do that, so when you say different groups, each one of them has their own game and they're playing their own. So like a table would be playing one game, and then another table would be playing another
of 6.
Yeah, because each game is 6 players,
Okay,
right? But
okay.
what I mean by groups is you can have XYZ company with, 32 people. So there are 6 games going at one time. Or you can have like a conference or a convention where people come from all over and they're doing it. So they're not even from the same company. They're all mixed. And so there are wonderful aspects to both of those scenarios, because when you're with one company, you can really drill down on this for your company.
Right.
When you're from multiple companies, like in a conference or something, you can come up with ideas that you take back that you heard from somebody else at some other organization, and they can swap and share ideas. So both of them have lots of benefits to them.
Yeah.
Got it.
Even people across, different departments playing, from the same company. You could get different viewpoints.
It's intended for team meetings and company events. It's intended for many different scenarios. And just so you know, this game is also digitalized. Anyway, you can also play it virtually. And so I've had people all over the world play together. I mean, some of them were getting up and having their morning coffee, while other ones, like the folks in Egypt and Germany, were getting ready for bed. The person in Australia was just waking up, so it's really interesting.
Well, it sounds like everyone's in their jammies anyway. So up or down.
Kind of, right? Kind of.
Jammies
and
my monster slippers.
COVID, because I created this game right
Right.
before COVID.
Right.
And that's why I basically lost the first couple of years, because I got the first prototype. the same week that the world shut down.
Right.
And so
Yikes.
literally, I mean, like I lost the first couple of years right there, but it's gaining traction and attention. And the cool thing is I now retail it.
Right.
We should order
Right.
one
Yeah.
for us.
Right. I'm still laughing because Rona said they're in the jammies, and so I see your next add-on product is going to be little tiny pillows for pillow fights.
Oh, that's a cool idea, actually. We can make like cute little, like it's got all these characters.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Fling a pillow.
There's this great game called Poetry for Neanderthals, and when you play it in person, it has like this big, almost like a pool noodle, and you hit the other people in the head like a club.
Yeah, so see, like this character on the computer,
Right.
maybe we should make the picture bigger and have them like in their pajama bottoms.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It could be
But let
played
me just quickly tell you
24/7.
that one little anecdote I was
Yes,
going to tell
yes.
you before. I had a group once where it was the owner, CEO, the person who started this company, and then his folks that worked for him. And something came up on a card, and I don't remember which one it was, but the employee read it, and then the CEO said, well, we never have that happen here. And the employee said, yeah, actually we do. And the CEO was like, what? And so that started a conversation, and it really unpacked a lot of stuff that they needed to work through. And it's moments like that that I love, because it gives the employees an opportunity to safely have a voice. That's why I want the managers or the owners or the president, whoever it is, the top people in the company, I want them to participate. I don't want them to say, well, this is just your event and I'm going to go play golf. You know, they never do that, do they? Do they go play golf while the people are working?
I don't
Maybe.
think so.
No, I'm just
Do
kidding.
they? I
I
don't
want
know.
them to be involved in the whole experience, because that's really what it's all
Right.
about, is to get everybody talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And then I had changed. You were going to say something else about the conversation, and it was before. It was a whole point before, and I interrupted you with that question.
Did we
That was probably it.
digress? No.
You think that was it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that-
I thought
We
had covered
digress
it.
a lot on these.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We barely get to the topic that we talk about when we talk about it.
So much to say.
Yes, I know. So what's your favorite thing about working with the game and doing what you do?
I love that it's never the same. No two groups are the same. No two outcomes are the same. I love how people have these enlightening aha moments. I love that people can talk and be transparent and kind of get stuff out of there. It's kind of therapeutic in a way, but that it's always fun. People always laugh. I mean, even if you're sent back to jail or court or something like that, it's always fun. And on that note, it's never a player that can do it to another player. So for example, in my family, when we play, what is the game? Sorry. My husband's really mean, loves to send me back to start if he can. Even if it makes more sense to like move my daughter's pawn, he'll move mine. This game was designed so that people like him can't do that. So
And you obviously have
it's
separate
the cards
bedrooms
that do
after
it. So if you go to court or you get fired or you
Right.
end up in jail, it's the cards. So no one person can ever be like angry with another person for doing something to them. And I did that on purpose so that it's always safe. It's always fun. It always makes people laugh, and it's different.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It sounds like it.
So you had a version 1 husband, and did you have a version 1 game?
Well, the version 1 game was actually an intimate partner violence educational board game that was developed for therapists, social workers, law enforcement, and people that ran domestic violence offender treatment groups. And that game is called Outrage.
Okay.
That game was in 2016.
And was that your game as well?
Yeah. That was my first game ever.
Okay.
And I co-developed it with a person who had counseled some like 3,500 domestic violence offenders. And for them, you have to go through a curriculum when you're in court mandated, at least in Arizona, but I think in most states, if you're in court mandated offender treatment groups, it's a 16-week rotating group. So if you have been ordered 54 weeks, you're going to see that curriculum over and over and over, right? So we thought, well, let's create something that gives them a variation that they can do on occasion. So that's where Outrage came from. But years later, in 2019, when I got the idea to I've done one game, why not do another? And I was already at that time in company culture. I just kind of use the same basic ideas, but of course the theory and the cards and everything are 100% different. So the company culture board game is 2.0, I guess you could say.
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Please do.
So I know in law enforcement, that's one of the most dangerous calls they can go on is domestic violence call. So to get, I mean, mentally, was there resistance to coming around? Oh, we're going to play a game on this? Excuse me, I'm sorry, I put my life on the line every time. Was there a negative resistance, or was there a relief that it gave them, again, as you said with this game, a safe place to talk about the things they didn't normally get a chance to talk about?
The game is designed mostly for survivors and offenders themselves.
Okay.
It wasn't really designed for law enforcement.
Okay.
The outcome was that we found that law enforcement liked the game.
Okay.
The reason they like it is because when they read the cards, everything on those cards is based on something that actually happened, either in my co-designer Carl's career or my career as an HR professional or my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up with it and I married it the first time, and then I also worked with it because of my early HR career. So what was good with law enforcement is that they were able to read things that open their eyes a little bit to the life and experience of survivors and offenders, because they're just really taught the legal, here's what you do, here's how you handle it, right? But they can't walk in the shoes of those people. Right. They learn, for example, that they sometimes misconstrue the very calm person as being they misconstrue when the person's very calm as opposed to the person who's like really frazzled. They have often think that the person who's really frazzled is the one that's instigating the violence, and it's typically the other way around. The person who instigated it is calm, cool, collected, because they want to look good, but also because their vagus nerve is helping them get a kind of like it's like their drug. Mm-hmm. So it's misconstrued. So those kinds of things are what helped in that game so much. But the original use for it was in shelters, and it helps the folks in shelter and those that are in offender treatment groups to have that conversation about being in each other's shoes.
Got it. Yeah. Of course, my first thought, well, wow, they would never have to worry about my vagus nerve because I'm all over the place. As she hits the equipment.
Hits the mic, sends it going. She already kicked over the monitor on the ground.
Oh, did I do that? I thought it was the dog.
That game's available too in a different way. It's called Outrage, and that game is available in a different method than my game. You can purchase them on two different places, but they're both available, and I'm happy to share that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll do that. And so go ahead.
No, you.
Okay, thank you. So you, I know you were actually training other people to work the game as well. How is that going?
It's been great. I have 2 licensed facilitators, one that's kind of in your neck of the woods of California, and one of them is in Colorado. So we've spent a great deal of time on their training and their preparation to facilitate the entire actual workshop. And that doesn't stop the game from being available. If a company wants to just buy it and facilitate it themselves, they can. And I think that would be wonderful. There is a lot of added value to having one of my trained facilitators.
Of course.
It's something like you could read a book and really enjoy it. Let's say a book by Maya Angelou. But if she actually showed up and sat in your living room and talked to you about why she wrote that book and what that conversation was eliciting and how that went into her manuscript and so forth, wouldn't that be a different experience altogether? It's the same.
Okay. That's a great metaphor. Is that a metaphor? Yeah. Not a simile, it's a metaphor. Okay.
Analogy.
Comparison? Yeah. One of those type words. Anyway.
So for getting the game
together. It's a good example.
So for getting the game together, the business of putting together a game. So you had it, you scoped it out. You had to create the pieces. Did you make a mock-up on your own? Did you get professional game designers involved? Did you? And you can not say anything. Any question I ask, like trade secrets, like, are you getting it made domestically? Are you going overseas?
We actually had other podcast guests earlier in our career that there was the internet, he's a 10 but that was so popular. They're the ones who started it, and they actually made a game out of it. And we heard their process, which was totally different, I know, than yours. So it'd be interesting if you can share something about it.
Well, when I first started this game, yeah, I started with a great big piece of paper and literally just sketched it out. And an artist I am not. And I just sketched it out. And then I began writing down all of the different things in HR that I could think of that related to bad things that happen in company culture, good things that happen in company culture. And I literally just had a list. And then I started to think, well, how many logically steps forward should this be? And how many steps backward should this be? And then I had HR friends of mine who understand human resources and company culture. Do these make sense? Now, you'll see in the game instructions that it says, don't get too lost in the weeds. If something goes forward 2 steps and you think it should be 4, that's not the most important issue. It is indicative of the card, but it's not the be all end all. It is, after all, just a game. So that's how I started with the cards. And then before I had pawns, I just had little square pieces of glass tile and a dice, because there's a die in the game. And I would start with my family and friends, and we would just play it multiple times to see what worked and what didn't. And was this confusing? Was that confusing? So it went through probably 4 to 5 different evolutions before I felt like this is it. And then, yeah, I had somebody help me with the actual graphics and that kind of stuff so that I could send it to the production company.
Very good. What do you look for in facilitators? What are the qualities that you look for? And one of the things I imagine is sometimes somebody's not ready for a conversation. Like an executive may not be ready to hear, oh yeah, this really does go on. And obviously they've got to manage that so that they don't throw their pieces down, storm out of the room and says, we're never playing this game again.
Well, those are 2 different questions. So let me answer them if I can. I am asked a lot, what would it take to be a facilitator? And other than these 2 people, I've known right when that came out of their mouth. The things that I look for are, they're already experienced in human resources. They already understand company culture and really what that's all about. They're accustomed to working with people, and they're accustomed to training. And one person I handpicked, my very first person, I actually met through LinkedIn, like I met you, Rona. And we massaged a relationship for a good year. So while I had this in the back of my mind before I ever even told her, and when I finally told her, I said, yeah, I've been kind of watching you for this reason. She was like, you have? And I said, oh yeah, I've been basically scouting you to see. So that was one person. The other person, when she approached me, she was somebody I already knew. And instantly I was like, yeah, she's a fit.
That's great.
But other people that have approached me, they weren't. But if there's somebody that came forward and they were those elements I was looking for, I would definitely have that conversation, because I have told these 2 people that I'm probably going to have a total of 5. I don't want to be like Brene Brown and John Maxwell. I don't want gazillions, because then there's a lot of competition.
Right.
But if I had like 5, then I think we have kind of a nice level playing field. They can refer work to one another and so forth. So my feeling is that those people will show up.
Yeah.
They will show up. And I did meet somebody a few weeks ago who I'm also keeping an eye on. They're not aware of it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll say something someday.
Yeah. I totally get that. We have, it's the same with play. People. And I know you know a lot of the same people I do who are, the play peeps. When some other people try to come in, that'd be really fun. You're like, I don't think you can get your ego out of the way enough. And, people who worry too much about what other people think, they're not going to be able to lead others in a playful sort of culture, because it's like,
Yeah.
So I totally
Yeah,
get
there are
that.
those elements, but I'm definitely open to hearing from people and seeing who shows up in my life. I'm completely open to that. And Jeff, you had another question, and that was, are there like CEOs and so forth that don't really, absolutely, there are lots of them that just don't want to hear it. It makes them uncomfortable. They are not ready for change. They think if I don't hear what they have to say, then I can just pretend it doesn't exist. I mean, shoot, isn't that true in a lot of relationships?
Correct.
We just like, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that, you know? And we want to open up that conversation and make it safe and make them really have great, healthy workplaces where people want to work, where people will tell their friends, hey, there's an opening, come. Because word of mouth from current employees that are like family members to somebody looking for a job or friends of somebody are the best way to recruit. And it saves a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want your workplace to be like that? Why wouldn't you want your workplace to be somewhere that people really want to stay and be lifers?
Sure.
You know? So why not?
Very good.
There you go.
Excellent.
So any tips for anyone who wants to do a business game or wants to, break in or even work with you? First of all, let's combine it. How do people get in touch with you and what do you look for?
I'm very findable. As you know, I'm on LinkedIn. So Stephanie Angelo, and it says, I think, company culture speaker, trainer, and consultant. And if they know you, they can just find the Stephanie that's
there you go.
To me, right?
We're all connected.
My website is super easy. It's just my name, stephanieangelo.com. My email is stephanie@stephanieangelo.com. I am so findable that my phone is like getting all the donate money here kind of things and answer this survey kind of thing. And, but somewhere in the mix, there are the real people. And I think that if you have those qualities and you really think that we should have a conversation, I mean, I'm open to it. So you don't know what you don't know, right?
And you don't ask, you don't get. So
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah,
Anything
exactly.
else? Any other questions?
No. Do you have a tip for somebody that wants to incorporate how would they change their program to incorporate your game? So
how would they say again, please?
How would they incorporate your game? Just real quick. How does somebody who's never used a game in speaking, how would they incorporate your game?
I don't intend people to buy it to then do their own workshops with it. There would be a little bit of there would be a copyright issue. And if they want to pay me a lot of money because of a court case.
Okay.
So no, they would have to license that. But if you work for a company and you need it for the company so that you could do employee events and so forth, that's why it's available for sale.
Okay. So you wouldn't sell it to other facilitators because you and your people want to be
because it's part of a program. It's part of a program
because they are facilitators. Right. So it's the same difference.
Right. Got it.
Yeah. So to just buy it and do underhanded programs using my game, that would be a conflict. That would be a copyright
I don't know
problem.
anyone who would do anything like that.
Right.
That never happened. Never happened.
But if you want to license the game to be a facilitator, then just do it the honest way.
Right.
Believe me, I have made it extremely affordable. Extremely. So, they go through the training, they pay the licensing fee, and then I say, go crazy. You don't even have to pay me like a commission every time you facilitate it.
That is generous.
That is.
I don't know if I would do that.
No, Rona would never do that.
I would never do that.
No.
It must be, I'm Jewish. I have to get a piece of the action. I can say that because
I get it because I am too, but we can say that to each other.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Oh, Angelo must be a married name.
Oh yeah. But even my maiden name, never, people never thought, no, they were like, you are?
Well, because my last name's Lewis, and that's Anglo-Saxon. My dad changed it from Lubetkin, which is like capital J on your forehead. But
okay.
Anyway, we digress once again.
Can we put a pin in it?
Sorry. Thank you, John Cotter. Anyway, I guess that's it. I wish you the best of luck. I think it's a brilliant idea. And, I come back another time, tell us how it's going. And if anything new and exciting, if you come up with another game, we'll have you back on, et cetera, et cetera.
Or actually just an update.
One thing, if they want to look at the game itself, the game itself has its own website. It's just www.companyculturegame.com.
Oh, good. Companyculturegame.com. Good. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. That's it for us. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
I'm Rona Lewis.
Thanks. Bye.
That was Stephanie. Stephanie Angelo. Stephanie Angelo, everybody.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and this program's been pretty much deja vu.
All
Can I
over
stop
again.
recording now on my side?
Just a second. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And scene. Now you can.
All right.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.